What's up, Dax?
What up, buddy? How you doing?
Not much. I'm good, bud. I'm good. We had a crazy podcast last week. We had Mark Cuban on last week. Great. I've had such amazing feedback. We got some good press out of it. We were in New York Post page 6. And I had a lot of people reach out to me seeing how much they enjoyed Mark Cuban. And
It was just good feedback. I think good feedback from people. People liked the concept of what we did in regards to like that entrepreneur versus shark perspective. I think people really kind of were like, oh, that's something different, something cool. So I got a lot of feedback from that.
yeah. Did you notice a little spike with the trophy smack on the website?
No, you know what? The thing is, that's not how our business works. I mean, even being on Shark Tank, yes, there is a spike of traffic, for people that want to come check it out. But what people look for, because a trophy purchase isn't an instantaneous purchase. That's something that like you plan for, so I think we will see our spikes when it comes to fantasy football season. People will be like, oh, I remember trophy smack, and then go and buy stuff. So
yeah,
that's kind of how it works with our company.
So again, if you're listening now, last week we had Mark Cuban on the podcast. Dax is actually in business with Mark Cuban because he has a company called Trophy Smack, and Mark Cuban bought into the company on Shark Tank, which is pretty cool. Did you, when you first did Shark Tank, did you get again, that episode aired on a Friday night? How was the traffic on the website though that Friday night?
No. It was huge that night. It was huge on Saturday. And then they re-aired it a couple weeks later. We also got a massive spike then. Again, I say it was more of a branding move than anything, because now people know about Trophy Smack, because it's not like a Snuggie or a pop socket or something that you see, you're like, oh, I need that right now. You put it into your brain and you go next time, oh, my kids, Little League needs trophies or medals. Okay, Trophy Smack. Or I have corporate awards, I'm going to go to them. Or I need a championship belt, I go to them. But no one does that purchase instantaneously.
Sure. Makes sense. Well, again, we had Mark Cuban on last week. Today, we have one of my favorite shows on TV, $1 Million Listing New York. Maybe it's because I'm a New Yorker, but I love the show. I think it's really interesting. I'm very curious about these guys because we see how much money they spend in the marketing, and we see how much these homes are going for. I'm curious how much these guys actually make. What is the commission on these huge homes? I'm a fan of the show. I've been watching for a few years, and he's one of the newer cast members. So I'm sure this show has I have to think it's helped out his success a little bit.
It has to, right? Like, you're on television. Real estate agents pay a lot of money to put their faces all over everything in my neighborhood. So I got to imagine being on national television is a huge, huge help for a real estate agent.
Yes. And before we get to him, the best thing you do to support this podcast is leave a review. We're on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube page. We're on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. We're on it all. But when you go to iTunes or wherever you listen to the podcast, if you leave a review, 5-star only, say some few words, it's the best thing to support us. And we will read your review live on air. Dax, do you have a review ready for us?
I do. So this one is from LBT, I think is how you say the name. 5 stars, and the title is Laughter. The guy's laughter is infectious. Great podcast, great content, great guests. Get you away from the doom and gloom from the world right now.
Very nice. I appreciate
it. Is a great and hey, listen, we love these reviews. That's why we read them. They are a huge help for us, and the algorithm on iTunes gets us out to more people. But if you guys either don't have iTunes and you want to leave us something, you want to somehow talk to us, our phone line is up and running, so you can call us, leave a message. It is 833-HWR-LINE. Again, that's 833-HWR-LINE. Leave us a message, ask a question for a celebrity, DM us a video of yourself asking a question to a celebrity on IG, and we will use those throughout our shows. So
yeah, it's a really fun option. You don't know who the celebrity is. It could be ridiculous, it could be random, it could be interesting, and you could ask it to a celebrity, and it's pretty fun. We've had some really cool moments over the past few episodes. Dax, tell us about our guest today.
Yeah, our guest is someone who is new to the television world, but is making a big splash on $1 Million Listing New York. Tyler Whitman is joining us. Welcome, Tyler.
Tyler, thanks for coming on the podcast. Obviously, I am a huge $1 Million Listing New York fan. I've been watching the show for a while. I live in New York. Dax is in California. So for me, it's like I resonate with the show very well. I mean, I loved when they had Frederick, Ryan, and actually, I like Louise. Louise is no longer with the show. Like, why did not Louise still be? Why was he not longer with the show, or what happened to him?
What's interesting? I actually don't know Luis that well. I knew him outside of the show. We've done some transactions together, but he's not in the city anymore. From my understanding, people ask me a lot about him. I mean, fans were obsessed with him.
Yeah.
And so people will ask me thinking I have an inside scoop that I promise you I don't have. But it is my understanding that he doesn't live in the city anymore. I think he's like out exploring the world and living his life. And I don't think he's in real estate anymore. According to, because I am friends with his old business partner, Renita, who's on the show a good bit with him. I do know her well. And it's my understanding through her that he's not in the business. I could be wrong.
Interesting. So Luis is no longer doing, as from what you know, Luis is no longer doing real estate. Do you know why, or?
No, I think from my understanding, he's just kind of like a world traveler. I know he left and went to Europe. I mainly know that because they followed it on the show a little bit.
Sure.
And then I think at the end of, because he came back, my first season was last season, and he came back on for a little bit. And I think at the end of the season, he moved to Puerto Rico. And then I actually just saw recently I think Ryan shared on his Instagram that he was working on this new travel TV show on Netflix. So I think he's just working on other projects and living his exploration life. Is that it? An exploration life.
An exploration life. I like that. So I don't know about New York because obviously, like Adam said, I live here in LA and real estate is fucking insane right now.
Yeah.
Like, is this the best time to be a real estate agent? Because things are going for hundreds of thousands of dollars over asking price. Like, I mean, houses around me, they list and then suddenly the offer comes in literally $100,000 over. It's wild.
Okay, so I have a few opinions on this that are pretty strong. So firstly, it's maybe the hardest time strategically to be a real estate agent, because we work with buyers, and New York is just now getting into the same arena as all the other real estate markets. During COVID, real estate exploded. I think people got really passionate about where they spend their time and where they live and how they spend their money. And so most real estate markets really took off. New York City, that was not the case. I mean, we had mass exodus, everybody left. Nobody wanted to live on top of each other anymore. And so prices plummeted. And then now, just in like the last few months, I mean, the city has come roaring back. And I know what we're experiencing now is what a lot of real estate agents and other markets are experiencing is like, it's hard to give. It used to just be like, well, here are the comps, here's the value of a house. And, here's the offer that you should make in order to, and here's how we should strategically put it together to make you win. People are coming in right now with such insane emotional offers that have really no data behind it, that it's really hard to give your clients strong advice and say, okay, we're going to make this crazy offer and it's going to get you the house, because you're like, there's so many people who, I just started to realize that, especially in New York City, I'm sure in Los Angeles, you just realize just how much wealth there is out there, and that people can just throw as much money as they want to get whatever they want. And like I have, so I sell in the Hamptons as well. Hamptons has been insane this entire time. But I had a place that I thought I'd priced on the higher side at $2 million. And we got like 12 offers in the first week. Ended up sending a contract out at 2.3. And then right after that, somebody came in at 2.6. And I was like, guys, everybody just relax. It's crazy. And it was for a great house, but I mean, it wasn't like a life-changing house. It wasn't like, so yeah, it's crazy. But I would actually say the craziness makes it really hard to give advice that you can believe in, because it's not sustainable. Here's the reason that I'm worried about it is these bidding wars and people going way above the asking price is definitely not sustainable. And that's there is not an endless supply of money. There seems to be right now, but that is just not how the world works. There's not going to be an endless supply of money. And so I get concerned with people spending this kind of money on property and what that's going to look like for them in the next 4 or 5 years. But at the same time, as a real estate agent, I'm like, you can't be homeless. Like, this is what it takes to win right now. So I have to tell you, like, we have to pay a lot to get this house, and that's how it works. But yeah, I'm concerned about what things look like in the future because of it.
So how long do you think this is going to last? Like, how long do you think this like upward climb of real estate price is going to be before? I mean, it has to fall off. It has to.
Right. I mean, there's only so many billionaires right there, right? Or am I
Yeah.
wrong? Are we all going to be, guys, are we all going to be billionaires?
I mean, sign me up.
I know. It's like, you know what? Actually, you know what? The house prices are going to continue to go up because we're all just going to like wake up to big, beautiful checks one day. It has to be somewhat soon. I would imagine. I think it has to be. I think it has to be in the next year or two. I mean, it's just there is going to be a moment where people are like, "Oh, this is crazy. I can't throw this much money at a house." So, and I don't think it's gonna go down. I think maybe we've set a new normal and a new standard, and like housing has reached a new level of value. I also think that housing has maybe reached something that real estate has always kind of sought after, which is liquidity. Because we don't really see houses as like a super liquid asset because you don't know when it's going to sell. But I do believe that we found kind of like this equilibrium within real estate markets to know that your house will sell at a proper price and it'll sell quickly. And I hope that that's just how it works from now on. Because then I think it becomes much more safe for people to put their money in houses. Whereas like people who are putting every last cent into their home often have concerns about like, what if I need this money though? Like I'm putting all of my money into this house and like, if something happens, it's not like I can like rip a $100 bill off the wall. It's just not how it works. Whereas like, if you're investing in the stock market, you can have that cash in a few days if you need to. And a house just doesn't work like that. So the liquidity aspect, I think, will be really good for real estate markets in general, just because people will feel more confident about putting their cash in there because if something happens, they can sell it and get it out pretty quickly.
Are people trying to buy houses with cryptocurrency?
We have started to see that. And it used to be, I remember, I don't even know when it was. It wasn't that long ago, probably like 5-6 years ago, that people would come in and offer cryptocurrency and they were being dead serious. It would always be like these kind of like strange buyers who were like, will they take Bitcoin? And I would laugh because I thought that they were thinking it was a joke, but they were serious. And everybody, we would not even consider it. Now, like I have sellers who are like, please put in your marketing materials that will accept X percentage of the purchase price in cryptocurrency.
Now, when it comes to crypto, that's just between the buyer and seller. Like there can't be any banks involved, correct? Like it would just have to be directly from buyer to seller.
For now, I mean, who knows if there will be some sort of collateral opportunities in the future. But yeah, it does have to be between them.
That's so interesting. Never thought about that, Adam. That's a good question.
Yeah. So when it comes to crypto, is it like, are they accepting Dogecoin, or does it matter the coin or anything when it comes to crypto?
How much Dogecoin are you going to need to get a house?
What's it, 30 cents maybe now? Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I just listened to a podcast the other day about it was called the Dogecoin Millionaire, and about this. It was really the first time I had really learned about Dogecoin. No, the only ones I really hear about right now are Bitcoin, just because that's obviously like the hot one. But I don't know. And to be totally transparent, I'm still learning a lot about cryptocurrency. I'm not sure I completely understand it yet. So it's hard for me to like have intelligent conversations with my clients around it, but a lot of them understand it and they're like, don't worry, I'll decide what I'm willing to take. And I'm like, okay, let me know.
I see that as being super scary. I mean, just how volatile the prices or the value goes up and down. Like you hand over this amount and then tomorrow Bitcoin drops in value so much. And then it's like, well, your house didn't necessarily go down in value, but now you don't have anything to show for it. It's wild. Not only do you have house prices fluctuate, now you got the price of Bitcoin or the value of Bitcoin up and down. That's kind of scary to me.
I agree. I agree. I just think that there's so many people who really believe in the future of cryptocurrency and what is ultimately going to happen long term that they're willing to take that risk. But I also, a different podcast was specifically talking about how don't mix cryptocurrency and real estate. It's just there's too many unknowns right now.
Yeah, for sure.
So when you had that house, I guess it was 2.3 and 2.6. What that was in the Hamptons, correct? Or
Yeah.
how much are the taxes on a house like that?
Out here, the taxes are actually not that bad. For that house, it was, I would need to go back and look, but it was like $5,000 annually.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. No, that's one of the things that people like about it out here is that.
What's the most expensive house that you've ever either sold or helped someone purchase?
I'm kind of in the middle of my biggest one right now. There's like, I'm almost afraid to talk about it, not because it's my most expensive by like double.
Really?
Yeah, it's in the $30 million range.
Holy mackerel! Wow, that's amazing.
Which would be a life changer.
Is that Hamptons or New York City?
That's in the city.
Wow.
I've done a lot now that are in like the 10 to 15 range. I haven't really broken that 20 million threshold. So this would be really exciting for me if it does end up happening. And it's a one of a kind. And it was also just kind of like one of those magical like preparation meets opportunity moments of just like oh wow, thank you, whatever universal power that was. But it's not done yet. So I can't. Right now it's like 15 million, but there's a chance that next week it's 30.
That's a big jump.
Now, is the show documenting this process? Because I mean, I got to imagine if you're like, hey, I've got a $30 million property, they're going to send their cameras out and you guys will be recording, or is it off season right now?
So we did just finish filming for the current season, and it's interesting, not all of our clients are willing to film, so the show doesn't follow every single sale that we do, and they really are more about, I think as the show has progressed, it used to be like, give us the best real estate porn that you have. At least I say this like I've been on the show forever. I've been on the show for a season. But I'm like seasoned over here. It's my understanding that it used to be all about real estate porn, like give me the sexiest, crazy properties, which is still something that they're very into. But I think the audience has gotten used to seeing really sexy properties. And the new thing that's exciting about real estate, and the thing that's exciting about reality TV in general, is being able to identify with people that you think you have nothing in common with. And I think it's one of the reasons they chose me to be on the show, is because I work with a lot of everyday New York everyday people, which is still its own interesting bubble. So when we're talking about which properties of mine they want to follow, it's actually less about the property and more about the story of my clients. And you'll see this season, I have some stories coming.
But I guess that's my question, because so your guys are on your off season now from filming. If something amazing lands in your back pocket, like a $30 million property, and it's an amazing family that you're like, oh, these people are so great for TV. Can you call up Bravo and say, guys, I know this is our off season, but this is worth documenting, because you only have a certain time window before that whole storyline is gone.
I wish, because I have so many great things that happen off camera. And it used to give me a lot of anxiety when I was brand new on the show, because I was like, I have this awesome thing happening that I want to share with the world and be like, look at this cool thing. But no, they don't just hire a crew to come out and film you out of budget, out of contract, out of season. But
seems like it to be a smart idea, but I am not the head of Bravo, so
I know. But the interesting thing about being on the show is that a lot of people reach out to me because they know they're good for TV. And so now that I'm on the show, the first season, it wasn't like I go put in my marketing, I'm on $1 million listing, come work with me. But now people have seen the show. And so a lot of them reach out knowing that they're good TV, and people have this self-awareness. And so the cool thing is awesome stories fall into my lap almost every day. And when it comes time to actually talk about putting the show together, and I'm sitting, I'm which ones are we gonna? Because it's not like we have unlimited episodes, and so we have to kind of narrow it down to the juicy ones, or not even the juicy ones, just the ones that I think because like I try to also choose, and they give us a lot of creative control in that regard of like which properties and people we want to work with on the show, because they know a lot of it has to do with just chemistry and like how you vibe with the person. But I also try to like I have a story of like these empty nesters on the Upper West Side this season that I think is just like heartwarming. They're not strange at all. They're just really, really good people who are like trying to sell their family home in the middle of a pandemic. And I was like, oh, a lot of people can probably relate to that, no matter how much money you have. I just try to like find stories that I think people will be able to connect with. And they really show up a lot.
How does that conversation happen between you, the Bravo, and the seller or buyer as far as coming on the show? Like you said, some of them don't want to come on the show, but some of them are open to it. How does that conversation happen? Do you have that conversation? Does Bravo have that conversation with these people?
It's honestly, it's all it's so funny because it's all just so like organic in my head that it doesn't even feel like a thing anymore.
Yeah.
I tell them, of course they want to know a little bit about the people and like what's going on. They kind of just trust us a little bit. I'm like, hey, I have these really interesting people that I'm about to start working with, and bring the cameras. Let's see, they're certainly open to being filmed, and let's see what happens. And I've never had one that they were called later and we're like, we didn't like them.
Well, do you ever ask Bravo to push back a little bit? Because there's a potential for you to make a lot of money, and not just you, your team. There's just other people's incomes that really rely on this sale or, this purchase. So do you ever have to go to like, Bravo and be like, listen, don't edit my person to look like an asshole, or please, can you step back a little bit because I'm about to fucking make a lot of money right now?
No, so I've never had an experience like that. It's actually on the other side. I have a lot of clients who are worried about how they're going to be edited, and of course, me coming on the show, I was like, because that's what everybody says. They're like, oh, they edit everybody to be crazy. Everyone's like, just don't be an asshole. Don't say something. I was like, they're not going to like splice together something you didn't say.
Sure.
And I've yet. And I joined halfway through the previous season. We're just starting to see the new season. There have been things that I've watched that have been like, oh, because I think that's the best part as a cast member, is being able to watch yourself and be like, oh, I said that. That's not cool. Like, I need to learn and grow from that. And I've certainly like had those experiences, but I've never watched it and been like, that's not fair. I didn't do that. I've just been like, ooh, I'm like, I did do that. I'm like, that was supposed to be funny, but I just look like an asshole. I'm like, so, but my clients get really concerned about it. And I've never, so far anyway, knock on wood, had a client reach out feeling like they were treated unfairly.
What's your relationship like with the other cast members? Because I know the real estate industry is very cutthroat. So you've got, with you're going to see these guys or ladies out. And so how does that work? Because you're like, we have to be cordial on camera. Are we really friends? Are we not? Because they could take my listings. Like, what is the dynamic?
Honestly, it's evolved a lot, because when I got on the show, I'm certainly the underdog character on the show. I wasn't nearly in like the arena of success as the rest of the cast. And so I hadn't really interacted with them, and I didn't really have much of a personal relationship with them. Through the success of being on the show and getting my name and my brand out there, now I'm pitching all the same listings as them. And it's changed a lot, because last season I kind of felt like the little brother. Everybody was like always reaching out to me. They were really supportive. This season, that dynamic has definitely changed a little bit, as like now they see me as more of a competitor than like this sweet little like up and coming boy that I was my first season. And but and I don't always like for instance, I don't think I've ever filmed with Steve Gold, because we've never done a deal together. And so like if it doesn't happen in real life, they don't like force it. He came to one of my events, and I've been to a couple of his events that cameras were there for, but we've never had like a story together. I do a deal. So Kirsten, the new cast member, and I, we didn't have like a friendship before the show, but we had done business together. That had mainly gone well, but at the beginning of this season, she and I had a lot of just like very organic competition happening. We were up for a lot of the same listings. I had taken over a couple of her listings right before the season started. And so she and I were definitely the most cutthroat with each other in the beginning. But, things changed. Like she and I ended up doing a deal together, had a ton of fun. And now we're working on another deal together. And through it all, we've become friends. But, it's certainly an evolution and a journey. And I kind of feel that way with everybody. Ryan has been very generous with me. He definitely takes on probably the most, I would say probably the most supportive of them all, in terms of just like reaching out, seeing how things are going, because it's a unique experience to like put your business on television, but it's real. It's like I was just a normal guy selling real estate in the city that got cast on a TV show, and I'm trying to like navigate this thing that you like the interesting, because like I can't call my friends and ask for. I'm like, what would you do if you were on a TV show selling a house? Because nobody's done it. You just kind of like
Sure.
figure it out. It's an interesting ride.
How did you get on the show?
It was just they don't like us to talk about it, but it was pretty organic. I was posting a lot of quirky marketing videos of myself. I'm clearly not shy with the camera. It was all over my social media, and they found it. Next thing I knew, there was a contract in my email.
That's incredible.
Does it make it easier to be a real estate agent when you're on TV? And I just mean because I think about how much money real estate agents put into marketing and advertising themselves. That's why I get flyers on my door. That's why real estate agents, pictures are on every like sale sign. So when you're on national television, do the deals just start coming to you?
No.
No.
And that was actually the biggest misconception that I had. I thought that I remember the day after my first episode, I was like, okay, team. I was like, we need to be in the office. I was like, our phones, and we just kind of like sat there like, why is nobody calling? I thought we were famous now. And if anything, Ryan was very generous with advice on this. And I took it, and now it's amazing. Because he has built a real estate empire for himself through being on the show. And he was like, when was the last time you watched a TV show and it got to the end and you were like, I'm gonna call that guy? He's like, if anything, you become a little bit unattainable. I think people like might watch the show, say like, I like that person, he's the kind of person I would want to do business with, but he's on TV, I'm not calling the guy on TV. And I do think that that's like the average mindset. So I actually kind of felt like I started getting less calls, and like even clients of mine that I had done past business with, I found out like they had sold their house to somebody else. And they were like, I just assumed that, you're a TV star now. And I was like, right. I was like, this is actually my job. I was like, I'm actually a real estate agent. I still want to sell houses. And so now I spend more money on marketing than I've ever spent before. I mean, I spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on marketing. Because you really have to capitalize on it. And of course, I'm like, it's all about taking the show and capitalizing on that, but you have to spend a ton of money on it. And then the phone calls started to pour in. I think once I got in front of them and people were like, oh, I mean, he's reaching out a lot. He's clearly spending a lot of money on reaching out. I guess I'll call him. And now once I learned how to play the game, and it's very expensive to play the game, but once I learned how to play it, then the business just exploded.
Wow.
So when you sell a house, let's say $15 million, your commission is how much?
On a $15 million sale, it's $450,000.
450, and then you're splitting that among how many people?
So that's basically because you represent. So it's 450,000 to each side. The commission is 6%. So the total commission is 900,000. So let's say I represent the buyer, it'd be 450,000, and then so you split with your company. And in New York, the highest you can really grow to achieve in New York is a 70% split, which is what most top producers are on. And so let's just use that as the hypothetical. So you would keep 70% of the 450,000. And then, so that's basically like what the Whitman team would take. If it's just me, then I don't split it with anybody else. Like, so if it's like one of my clients that I'm not, but if it's like an agent that I'm working it with on my team, then we would split the remainder 50-50. You know, so if it's approximately $300,000, I'd take 150 and they would take 150.
Yeah.
But
So
a lot of times in that price range, I'm usually just doing it by myself.
Sure.
Makes sense. I was going to say, so you being a real estate agent, you seeing all the greatest properties, the coolest places to live, where would be your ideal spot if you had unlimited amounts of money? Where would you buy a place?
I definitely would probably be in West Village. I mean, like a West Village townhouse is the ultimate dream for me. But you know, that's a $30 million dream. Right now, I will say my current apartment is my favorite apartment. I'll live in my current apartment for a very long time. You know, it's huge, it's in a great location. It's a different kind of apartment than I've ever lived in before. And honestly, if I lived in this apartment for the rest of my life, I'd be very lucky. It's fantastic.
So one thing that's because people own apartments in New York, correct?
Yeah.
So that's always because in LA you don't own an apartment. You rent an apartment. So you do. Do you own your apartment?
No, I'm actually renting it, but I do think I'm going to buy it at the end of this year. It was a very last minute thing. And I was I was like, I would never live in something like this, but I just needed like a quick rental. And so it's a very expensive rental. And then I got in there, I fell in love with it, and it is for sale right now. So I think I'm going to buy it.
Nice.
What area are you in?
I'm in West Chelsea. I'm on 18th and 10th.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's great. That's you know, not far from Hudson Yards, and it's a great area.
Yeah, like I overlook the High Line. It's great.
Yeah, it's great.
I've been on. See, again, I'm an LA guy. I did the High Line once. What a cool area! Like when you walk down and you see all these like apartments and these buildings looking over this beautiful like park in the sky. It's so cool.
Yeah, I love it.
What is the hottest area in New York City right now for real estate?
You know, downtown is always hot. At the beginning of this year, Tribeca was on fire, which is great because Tribeca had some tough days. Tribeca is starting to cool off a little bit. West Village, I think, will probably just always be the hottest location in terms of pricing and real estate in general, because you can't really build there. So it's not one of the neighborhoods that just got overwhelmed with way too much new development, which happened in like Chelsea has a ton of new development. There's basically a ton of new development everywhere except for the West Village. So there'll always be a limited supply there. It's always going to be the most charming neighborhood in the city with the best restaurants and the best shopping. So this is where everybody wants to be, and there's a limited supply. So it'll always sell quickly for top dollar for sure.
Have you been able to help any celebs buy homes?
Yes, but two, and they're both super private. but it's not. Celebrities aren't a huge part of my business yet.
I was just wondering because
my business is mainly a lot of tech money. I work with a lot of founders and CEOs, and like those, my big buyers are usually coming from that world.
How do you get into that world? Like, is it just word of mouth? One person recommends you to someone else? Like, how do you get into this big money market?
So being on the show was helpful. And then, Triplement, the firm that I work for, we're definitely a tech startup company. You know, we've raised a ton of money from a bunch of investors. So we just kind of live in that world. And, and we were actually part of it was called ERA, which is Entrepreneur Roundup Accelerator, which is just an accelerator program for startups that we did back in 2013. And so we pitch investors all the time. We're just like known in the tech world. And so a lot of even people who don't invest in us are like, but I need to buy a place, so that's kind of how I got involved in that world. I have a lot of different sources now. I mean, social media has been huge for me. There's a lot of people who just watch my videos and they're like, I want to work with you. There are people who obviously watch the show and want to work with me. And then banking relationships that I have send me a lot of business, a lot of referral partners, like people that I send contracting business to, banking business to, are sending me a lot of their big clients as well. So it's just a little bit of everything.
So fun. So cool.
I watched the show, and then you see like when they do an open house, there's these extravagant parties, and they have all the brokers there and like, hey, we're going to have a theme. It's going to be a carnival theme as an example. Do those things really happen?
Yeah. And they're expensive. And it's like, for me, it's part of your pitch. So when you go for these big listings, people want to know what you want to do. And you can't just be like, well, I'm going to take pictures and floor plan and I'm going to put it on Zillow and fingers crossed. You have to go in there with these big promises. And you're like, we're going to throw this big party and, we're going to have all these people. I'm going to have all the top brokers and we're going to have this event and we're going to make this video. And then you can't just like put that in your pitch and then not do it. And so but we get desperate trying to get these big listings and we start like making these huge promises and then we have to deliver on them. So yeah, those happen a lot.
What's the most money you've spent on one of these like pre-parties? Because I mean, if you're dropping, $50,000, you're thinking you're not gonna. That money goes out the window then in the commission.
Yeah. So I look at every single listing and what I'm spending on. So for like instance, for me to make a listing video at the level I make listing videos, because I do like commercial quality, I usually hire actors. And I try to make them funny. So I try to get like real talent in there. I've spent $20,000 on a listing video before. And then that will be for like the one that I did for 87th Street, the musical. That one was $20,000. And that commission is going to be $180,000. But then I also think, I'm like, I can only sell this apartment to one person. This video is going to get in front of hopefully 1,000. I think that video got like 1 million views. And so I think about it more so than just that one commission. And that, so I'm like, okay, it's $20,000. It is going to help me get this listing and sell this listing. But then hopefully it's also going to get me 30 or 40 new relationships that also bring in, so I look at it as more than just the listing it's up against when I'm looking at dollars spent. And I usually make that budget at the beginning of the year. So like my budget this year, I'm going to spend $450,000 on marketing. And then I decide how much of that money I want to allocate to each listing. And that's a huge number now. In the past, I was only able to spend like $50,000 and then it grew to like 80,000, and so, but I don't look at that money on getting one listing sold. I look at that's an investment in my business and growing everything that I'm working on entirely.
Of all the brokers on the show, who was the most successful?
It always goes back and forth between Ryan and Frederick, and they're both so successful, and it's such a pissing competition between the two of them. Is like I think they're like getting it down to the cent of who sold more. I'm like, girls, you are both rich. Like we don't. Nobody's feeling sorry for you, and nobody's more excited for the one who sold more. And I really don't know who wins because I also think that they're so competitive with each other that sometimes it feels like the numbers are fake to me. I'm like, okay, you're making things up now. And they're like, oh, and I sold an island in the Philippines, and it was off market. You'll never be able to find it, but it was $100 million.
So how much do you think someone like Frederick or Ryan are pulling in a year?
Oh gosh, I'm actually
like personally in their personal salary. What would you say roughly?
I mean, it's a big number but I'm very curious about it because so Ryan last year he put an Instagram post. I don't think I'm blowing him up. You can scroll down far enough, you'll find it. He said that his team brought in $20 million in commissions. I think that was 2019. But he said his team brought in $20 million in commissions. And so I was like, okay, he's probably walking with about half of that by the time he like pays everybody. And so let's say he made $10 million. But then he also started his real estate school, which I think is really successful. He's done book deals, he has endorsement deals, and so I have no idea how much extra that could be, but it's very inspiring. Right? I think about it often. No I'm like, I want to make that much money.
I'm getting into real estate. Let's do this.
Right? Dax, you understand? Ryan right now, Cipriani is like the hottest one. It's always been, but right now during the pandemic, it's still one of the hottest restaurants in New York City. You go by Cipriani every day. It's some bougie kind of European people outside, and then right next door is Ryan's signs everywhere. Sirhan, because that's where his offices are going to be. So it's like a great space to like be. It's a great commercial for him for his brand. Essentially, yeah. I saw him there about a month ago, eating there, and this was right after he sold Bella Hadid's apartment. And so that was a great, and I talked to him about it. He said that, when people go to purchase these homes, like they don't allow the average, me and Dax can go and check out these homes. They have to check to see if these people could actually afford these homes. Now, when you do these homes and someone wants to check out a $15 million apartment, do you research these people before they come in and get to see a preview of this place?
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, you can't just like let people into any old property. The only time I don't check them out is if it's coming from like a broker that I know and respect. And then and then I'm just like, okay, I'm like, this person is successful enough and has proven themselves enough times that like I don't need to quiz them. Like they've proven themselves to me that they're quality and they represent quality people. But if somebody just sends me like a random internet inquiry, oh yeah, like not only do I need to find you on Google, but you're going to need to send me a proof of funds.
So you're not going to let us walk through the $30 million apartment you're selling?
Well, how much money do you have?
Not 30 million, I'll tell you that much.
He won't even let us trick or treat at these homes.
Yeah, I mean, look how good my view is. You can tell I'm really high up in LA. It's a beautiful view out here.
Well, Tyler, man, thank you for coming on the podcast. I'm a huge fan of the show, and I see what you do on social media. You're a fun follow, and I think you're a great addition to the show. You got good energy, and it's cool to see you rise in the real estate game and kind of grow with, obviously Frederick and Ryan are some big shot guys, and to see a rising star in the real estate game. I think you do a good job selling yourself, and you do a good job selling for your clients.
And you can find him on social media. Go to find his IG at Tyler Whitman. He's got some fun stuff, guys. I'm telling you, fun stuff. Like Adam said, he's a good follow.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate the plug. I appreciate you guys saying all of that. It's been an awesome ride. And I appreciate you having me on the podcast. This is fun.
No problem. And good luck with your huge sale. Even if it's not on TV, we're crossing our fingers for you that it lands and takes you to another level, man.
I swear if I jinxed it by talking about it on this podcast, I'll be so mad.
Listen, people have done well after this podcast. I don't know. I'm just saying that. But I hope that you are, at least, so we can put you down on our resume as like, Tyler, he sold a $30 million place after being on our podcast. So everyone wants to be on our podcast now.
Dreams come true.
Tyler was cool. I like him.
I did too. When someone says, Bravo doesn't like us talking about this, but that's my favorite kind of guest right there.
Yeah. I mean, it's so weird that Bravo doesn't want them talking about that. It's funny because I know a friend, I know people have been hit up by the Bachelor people on social media, like, hey, we'd love for you to audition on the show. It's like, it's sort of known now, but I think
that's what they do. They reach out to people.
He's an interesting guy. He's got a good personality. He's got a good way about him. If I could afford his home, maybe I'd go through him. I'd use him as my broker.
I think the thing I was surprised about was that he doesn't own his own home yet. And especially for someone who is, well, I guess his success is still new, right? Like the way he said, like, my marketing every year has gone from 20,000 to 80,000 to 120,000. This year I'm going to spend $150,000 on marketing. Clearly his Rolodex and his success is going up. I just think in the real estate world, I was surprised to hear he didn't own his own home yet. But maybe soon.
Listen, but New York City is expensive, Dax. I mean, I'm talking for a studio or a one bedroom in New York City. I mean, you're still talking more than the average like house of acre in like just outside this. I mean, it's
so how much is a studio home in New York?
All right, I would say a studio right now. I would say the cheapest for I'll say Murray Hill, which is sort of in the 30s on the east side. My guess, again, I'm not a real estate person, and I would say 600,000 minimum. Maybe 700,000.
And like
that's a studio.
For his apartment in, where did he say he was at? The meatpacking district?
He was in Chelsea. He was in Chelsea. Probably has a one bedroom, nice private building, new doorman. I mean, I'm thinking minimum that's got to be, you're talking close to $1 million. I'd say 900,000 maybe. That's my guess.
Live out there. Why?
Dude, it's crazy, but it's honestly,
out of there.
It's now's like the best time to be in city. The weather's warm, the people are out. It's great. It's fun. It's beautiful. Then the summer comes, it gets a little gross, but right now it's been great. It's been a lot of fun. But thank you guys for listening to the podcast. Make sure you leave a review. It's the best thing to do to support this. You can see the video portion of this podcast. We're on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. We're on it all. Hollywood Raw Podcast.
Like I said, feel free to leave us a message. We love hearing your guys' voices. 833-HWR line. Again, 833-HWR line. Just know if you leave us a message, there's a good chance it will make air. So don't leave us something that you don't want broadcast out there.
Yeah, you could find me at Adam Glyn, Glyn. You can find Dax Holt at DAXHOLT. And we'll see you guys next time.